Well, guys, it appears that we finally have the first 72 volt e-bike. Now, of course, 72 volt bikes exist, but I'm specifically talking an e-bike with pedals that comes stock with a 72 volt battery. And this bike is the new Wired Freedom. Now, I reviewed this bike, I think 2 years ago on this channel. Since then, it's gone through lots of upgrades, small things like new suspension components. They even offered a dual battery version. But even back to my original review, this bike was always one of the most powerful bikes on the market. But it wasn't 72 volts, it was 60 volts. But it looks like that is a thing of the past, because I recently checked their website, and it appears this summer they have a new model coming out, actually a few new models, that are all 72 volts. And I find that super exciting, especially because they're not just regular e-bikes that now have a 72 volt battery, but they're also still relatively affordable. But okay, this new bike, let's call it the base version, is $2,600. And for that price, of course, you're getting a 72 volt battery, 35 amp hour capacity. And that capacity is split between two batteries. So it's a dual battery system. Gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of having double batteries. It kind of makes it look more DIY in my opinion, although ultimately when it comes to the performance, whether you have one large battery or two small batteries, it's the same. And because this is a regular e-bike, it uses a hub motor, not a mid-drive or anything fancy like that, although supposedly it's listed as having a peak power of 5 kilowatts, which is very significant. They implement a head tag hub motor, which is a little bit different than the more usual Bafang. That's the same motor that my unit had back 2 years ago. And I gotta say, it really did surprise me in terms of its power delivery and overall performance. And now this is running at a higher voltage and pushing even more power. But one thing I've always had an issue when it comes to these Wired Freedom bikes is that they are physically extremely large. They're based off of a fat tire mountain bike, which makes this physically larger than most people expect. Another way of putting that is that it's bigger than it looks in the photos. Transporting this bike, thus, is going to be rather difficult. You really need like a van or a full-size pickup if you want to fit this inside of your vehicle. And to me, that just limits your optionality when it comes to what you can do with this bike. And then something I'm more neutral on is the suspension. So this does have kind of regular mountain bike suspension with an air shock in the back. But the thing is, mountain bike suspension is not quite as good as dirt bike suspension. In fact, there's a pretty wide chasm there. Most mountain bikes have like maybe 2 inches of travel versus the more long travel setup of a dirt bike that I'm on right now. So if I pull over here, you guys can kind of see that if I bounce on this, I move up and down by like a foot. And to me, that's the gold standard. And mountain bike suspension like what we have here is just not as good. Now, with all that said, there is a second version or model of this bike. It has the same chassis, so it still has the same pros and cons in terms of its size, the suspension. But here, the big difference is that this is all-wheel drive. So a hub motor in the rear and the front, which delivers a total power of 8 kilowatts. So that's 8 kilowatts at 72 volts with the same dual battery setup delivering 35 amp hours of capacity. Now, as you can imagine, this is going to be more expensive, and the price tag here is $3,500, roughly a $1,000 premium. And that makes me kind of torn on the bike. The other model being $2,600, I think is very compelling. But this one, even though I like the spec sheet more, $3,500 it's starting to get up there. I mean, the bike I'm on right now, the Raw Mantis X, is also 72 volts, 6.5 kilowatts, and the price tag here is $3,000 bucks. So that's just my take on these bikes. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.